I mean, when you just look at the amount of companies he's created, all successful, all in completely different areas, and the fact that maybe you could say Benjamin Franklin is ahead and Leonardo da Vinci is probably still up there, but I think he's in the top 5, and I felt he was going to be in the top 5 for a long time of most innovative people of all time. When you put that genius in the free market, this is what you get. And he's not scary, but we'll get into that later. Why people think he's scary. I mean, again, you're in the free market. We're not in the government. Well, here we are. I'm in the middle of travel, performing at the Kansas City Italian Festival, played all day. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to spend my Sunday night not partying, but doing my rebuttal of what Jubilee put out. From the 2 hours we talked, squashed down to 1 hour, cutting out a ton of what I said when I hardly was able to say anything of what I really wanted to say. And the comments are flying, all kinds of lies and bullcrap. So we're going to have to go over that now, unfortunately. The first time I was able to talk, I mentioned how I think it's pretty indisputable that Elon Musk is one of the most incredible people who has ever lived. In one of the many facts that he's the richest person in the world, depending on Tesla's stock price, and he doesn't care about the money. He's always putting it back into the next company. Even when he made $22 million, he buys a McLaren F1, best car he could possibly buy.
That's the engine.
And are you?
No, I'm not. It comes with its own set of luggage, actually.
Takes the rest of the money, puts it into his next project. That's what he does. But people can debate that, fine. I tried to tie it into the free market, that there's nothing to be afraid of in the free market, before I realized that Jubilee had put 4 full-on socialists against us. And I mean full-on, the government is mostly good and companies are mostly bad, which we will get to later in the video. But it is the second part of this rebuttal video that is maybe most important of all, and that is the fact that Jubilee cut out the entire section where I talked about that I was part of an online discussion with Evan Williams, one of the co-founders of Twitter, where he fully admitted to all of us I was there performing music in the background at times in between the discussions. So I heard all of this, and I had the transcript, and it wasn't a private meeting, and I told Jubilee about this. They didn't want to believe me. They cut out the whole section, even though I sent them the video that they could present on this Jubilee video, which they did not. I will now present it to you here. And it is truly astounding what you are about to hear. This was a discussion between one of my dear friends who does a lot of technological events throughout New England and really throughout the world, interviewing Evan Williams, one of the co-founders with Jack Dorsey of Twitter.
Who have been itching to talk.
The problem is there's 10 billion things I want to say. We're not going to have time for it. So let me make this abundantly clear from the beginning, especially for the viewers, because they're going to think everybody on this side is conservative Republican. I have never voted Republican in my life, and the people at Jubilee probably know from my biography. I've played 4 times at the White House. I'm a professional musician, and all for Democratic presidents, okay? If we look at Twitter until Elon bought it, the only way you would think that Twitter was somewhat even in any way is if you went to bed every night with AOC and the Squad blankets and a Bernie Sanders teddy bear. That would be the only way that you would think that Twitter was even, it was 1,000% controlled by the left.
The issue with talking about...
Aha, you see that? That's where the cut was. 1,000% controlled by the left.
The issue with talking about...
Where I spent another 2 minutes discussing what you're about to see, which they wouldn't show. They made the edit. So here's the video for you guys.
So, Evan, what are some of the things you're most proud of that Twitter has enabled, that Twitter has facilitated? But what are some of the challenges and dangers of Twitter? So I'm curious to have you share kind of the 2 sides of Twitter.
The original prototypes that we based Twitter off of were all about using text messaging for protests and for social change. The level at which Twitter has democratized the media and democratized who has ability to have a voice, the existence of the fact that a movement called, Black Lives Matter is a hashtag and is organized on Twitter and other social media platforms is something I'm incredibly proud of. Something we forget that before social media existed, before Twitter existed, it wasn't possible to have this kind of platform.
Oh wait, it gets better. Not only does he admit that Twitter was a total force for the left, he also admits that him and Jack were very frustrated by the fact that people they disagreed with could also use Twitter.
Unfortunately, the ability to use crowds of people and have a tremendous platform like this isn't limited to only people who have progressive politics. And so there was an assumption that if we just opened it up to everybody and we gave people voices and we gave them an empowered way to decide who they're listening to, that it would democratize it. And it did democratize communication, but it also empowered a whole series of voices and perspectives that had, for good reason, been silenced from the mainstream.
For good reason. Yes, once again, the left using terms like fair share that have no actual definition, like the word community, the most overused word in today's language. There's no definition. It doesn't mean anything. For good reason. That's his definition. And this happens more in the other discussion.
So there's a whole bunch of racist and misogynist and homophobic speech and activities and beliefs that were considered, too far outside the mainstream to be given a voice on television and radio and in print. And Twitter gave this tremendous microphone to all of these different voices. As we could see with, Donald Trump, that, he did use it as one of the things that was very powerful. I know that I have had, over the years, I had numerous conversations with Jack about should Trump's account be deleted. And I think that the time to have deleted it would have been before he ran for president. And by the time he was running, my advice was that it would be very difficult for Twitter to do it. Eventually, they did the right thing and deleted it, but there's a bunch of other people's accounts that should have been deleted earlier.
The time to have deleted Donald Trump's account was before he ran for president. Bombshell of a statement. How is that not a national scandal? And then it gets worse. We did the right thing, deleting the account. Really, the guy who has won 2 presidential elections, whether you like him or not, in a democratic republic, the right thing to do was delete him, really. And then thirdly, he says, and many other people should have been deleted. This guy is your classic leftist. He thinks he knows everything and everyone else is stupid. This started with Woodrow Wilson, and we'll get into that too.
We need to develop new and better models for how we govern what is acceptable speech, the way they do it in China. And so we need to develop new models for regulating speech.
This was 4 years ago, and I'm still speechless every time I listen to this. And Jubilee would not put it on there. But,
And then you say, why is Twitter cracking down on the right? Maybe because those people were telling more lies,
it's
violating
okay.
TOS.
Lies are fine.
Well, that's their
Who
right
gets
to
to
prevent
decide what
that.
disinformation
Exactly.
is?
Yeah.
Now,
The people
now
that own
on
the
Twitter,
platform. Let's raise our
we
hand
have
at the 2020
community
election
notes,
still.
right?
now I'm getting all kinds of slack in the comments about my statement. Lying is okay. Yes, it is. You know why? Because much of the time, the lies end up becoming truth. For tens of thousands of years, everyone thought the earth was flat. Everyone thought that the earth was the center of the universe, and the crazy people disagreed with that. Well, guess what? The crazy people ended up being right. Many times, just like during COVID, the conspiracy theorists ended up being right. I wouldn't say listen to them, but their voice deserves to be heard. As much as I hate everything AOC and the squad say, they deserve the right to talk because maybe one of their crazy statements might end up being true. That's why lying is okay, because you don't know if it's lying or if it's crazy conspiracy theory. It needs to be said. That's the point. And this gets into technocracy and experts running the system because they're experts. Well, who hires the experts? Other experts. Well, who hires the experts that hire the experts that hire the experts? Now it's time to talk about Tesla's stock and how Jubilee misrepresented their fact-checking.
I just want to say, too, the stock is down about 40% from its high. It was 480. Every stock in the stock market is down 40, 50, 60% right now from its high. It's just like every other stock.
particularly bad.
No,
Thank
it's
you for
not.
acknowledging that.
It's
Thank you for
not.
conceding that.
I've been in the stock market since I was 6 years old. They're all down 40% from their inaugural.
But I think
Now, what I did do to screw myself here is I said every stock. I should not have said that. That is on me. What I really meant to say was every one of the big stocks that most people follow. At the time we filmed this, at the end of April, Tesla had bottomed out twice in April at 210. It was back to about 300 with a high of 480, as I said. That means it was down 37% from its high. If we take some random stocks that everybody loves, Micron down 50% from its high. Okay? How about a totally different stock? Alcoa down 50% from its high. How about AMD down 50% from its high? Amazon was down 25% from its high. Nvidia, everybody loves Nvidia, was down 30% from its high. And American Airlines, totally different company, down over 50% from its high. That was my point. was Tesla was down less than many other major companies that everybody follows. But Jubilee chose to put the S&P 500. For people that don't understand the stock market, like, it's only down 4%. The S&P 500 doesn't move as much. It is a giant conglomerate index of stocks. I'm talking about the major stocks that most people follow. That's what I meant.
I've been in the stock market since I was 6 years old.
If you actually go through the hell of reading all the comments in the Jubilee video, just in the first 12 hours that it's been up, you would be astounded at how many comments say, this guy, I don't believe a thing he says. He's telling me he was in the stock market at 6 years old. I was. I didn't grow up with cartoons. I didn't grow up with Barney. I grew up watching CNBC with Mark Haynes and Maria Bartiromo and Bob Pisani and Rick Santelli and Jim Cramer when nobody knew who he was, pre-dot-com bubble. That's when I get into the stock market because my parents very smartly got me into that. And it would behoove many of you to become financially literate with the stock market, where you can make money along with companies you like or hate. That's how amazing capitalism is. You can actually make money with companies you hate and then throw a party about hating them from the money you made with that company that you hate. That's how great it is. But you have to learn the stock market.
The United States of America has been living in a lie since first Woodrow Wilson with, income tax. I'm supposed to have that. Federal Reserve, and that's been great. And technocracy, which was I was going to say in the last aspect of what's an expert. Now, the next one, FDR, who decided to take the phrase to protect the general welfare and decided to completely change the foundation of America, which was a government this big and the Constitution to protect the people from the government, and decide that the government is supposed to help the people. If you think the government is supposed to help the people, please leave America. That is not what we are about. We are about freedom and individual liberty. We've come to this idea where the government is supposed to help my Social Security, my welfare, all these things that have destroyed what it means to be American. And so Doge, oh wow, they've cut 200,000 jobs. I want about 2.8 million of the jobs to be canceled. Remember that in Thomas Jefferson's time, there was 3,000 people that worked for the government. There's almost 3 million now. That is not what the founders created, and why we quickly became, in 150 years, the greatest country of all time. In that short period of time.
Wilson refounded the country.
Oh, yeah.
Wilson refounded the country on the belief that checks and balances were something that had to be limited by the expert class.
To go over the evils of both Woodrow Wilson and FDR, I would need a 2-hour video. So we're not going to do that.
Executive branch can't just start cutting funding for things. So
Yes,
that's
the government doesn't want to cut
number
the government.
one.
I know, shocking.
Why are we gutting entire departments that were created to protect people, to ensure that they did have this whole liberty and justice for all?
Yes, this guy's logic is to protect people from the government, you need the government to protect people from the government. Right.
Because if we didn't have that, then non-government entities would literally be killing us, right? So like when we're rescinding and we're trying to cut.
And this is the great fallacy of those four and almost everyone in the comments currently of the Jubilee video, is that somehow, and I kept asking this question, they would refuse to answer it, somehow private companies who must fulfill what customers want are more evil than the government, who has a monopoly on weapons and military and can force you to do whatever they wanted to do. They've never answered that. And also, they would literally be killing us. Really. Private companies would be killing people. People wouldn't buy products from companies if they were killing people. I mean, this logic is absolutely insane.
People in the FDA, right? And we're trying to reduce that workforce. Well, yeah, I'll be the first to admit, FDA, not necessarily the most efficient. Removing people from it is not going to help speed up the process of reviewing new medical technologies.
Another great fallacy of debating anyone on the economic left especially is the fact that they will always give you the data that they have, but they will never talk about the data that they don't have. Perfect example is the FDA. We can look at all the products that were not allowed through by the FDA because they would have killed people. Sure. But where's the data on drugs and any kind of other product going through the FDA that would have saved millions of lives? Well, we don't have that, and we never will, because certain companies are in bed with the FDA to make sure new capitalistic companies, whether it's some random kid in a basement who invented something, do not get through because it will destroy the profits of another company. That's not capitalism. Whenever you have any government protection, you are destroying the free market. And in the long run, you are killing more people than just allowing all products onto the market, which some people will die, sure, but how many other people will be saved? You don't have that data. Just like with Tesla cars. We can look at all the times that Teslas killed people because of something that went wrong with the computer. But you don't have the data for all the times someone would have crashed into a truck and didn't because the car saved it. You don't have that data. That's what the left never has.
And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was a way for me to go to them without having to hire an attorney. You all thought that they were debanking people. They were protecting you. You let Elon Musk go in and gut the protections for you against the banks. Yes, sir. Yes.
Wait, I have one quick question. You can laugh when you don't have substance?
No, I do.
I have one quick question.
And this is where I went into some Thomas Sowell facts, since I've read 12 of his books. But of course, Jubilee cut that part of the video out. So it just makes me look like I laughed and didn't have substance, and all the comments are going along with that.
Because if you remove the government, which you keep saying, I know you might not be an anarchist, but all of your language is like, I'm done, I'm super libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, whatever the case.
No, I'm not, definitely not.
As someone that's won 3 world championships, I am all about competition. And if you are an anarcho-capitalist, you don't even believe in countries. You just believe everybody free trades with everybody and there's no police, no military, blah, 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 blah. I am totally for competition. I am totally for governments. I just think they should be as small as the Constitution says. My heroes in economics are Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell. They were not anarcho-capitalists, and neither am I.
Or removing any sort of protective agency for consumers is just going to seize all of the power to those that already have the profit incentive and have the maximum amount of influence, which are these
What is the
oligarchs.
incentive of the government? Why do you guys trust the government more than the free market?
The government
Please
is not the
explain.
shadowy cabal of people that
yes,
are
it
going
is.
to fight
The free market is what allowed for people to discriminate against people like me.
No, that is a
yes,
lie.
it actually was.
Oh, 1,000%
It
a lie.
actually was.
No.
Yeah. Before
the government was always the racist. Always.
Oh,
it was
okay.
never
So
the capital.
When a restaurant decided
Let me
not
give
to
examples.
feed my grandparents when they would walk in, was that the government saying, go be racist?
The free market cares far more. These greedy, evil businessmen, you're so scared of these greedy, evil businessmen. They care about making money. Whatever racism, sexism they will ever have, capitalism destroys that. If I wanted to start a basketball team and I was a gazillionaire and I said, I hate black people, I'm not going to have any black people, how would my team do? It would lose every game, wouldn't it? How would that? The free market only cares about making money. There was train companies in the South right after the Civil War that allowed black people to sit wherever they wanted because they wanted money. They don't care about racism.
Any libertarian that I scroll on Reddit, dude. I don't need to hear the whole monologue.
This is the other thing that's blowing up in the comments. He's a Reddit bot. He's a Discord bot. He's on drugs. That's another one. I've never touched drugs, by the way. Never touched them. I'll have 1,000 of my friends confirm that for you. I have never been on Discord, outside of the time I had to sign in to play with the great rap legend, Harry Mack.
Yeah, I'm getting hype with the speech, while the best accordion players providing the beat. Let's do it. I got lyrics that they couldn't even measure. 32 hours, y'all, he's in the Guinness records.
That's the one time I was on Discord. Other than that, I've never been on it. And Reddit, never been on it. Don't understand how it works. I don't understand the sub thing. I don't get it. Not on Reddit, not on Discord, never touched drugs. And this guy says, I've read it all. Well, obviously you haven't, because you're still a far lefty.
I liked what you.
Then why do you trust the government more than free market?
Let me give you an example.
Dude, it's not about trusting the government at face value. It's about reforming the government.
I want the
to actually
government.
work on behalf.
I want the government.
This is the same logic that all fans of socialism use. It's not that socialism doesn't work. It just wasn't organized properly. And the people that organized it, they were bad people. Trust me, it works. It just hasn't worked yet because it hasn't been implemented properly. And then at the end, they forced us to figure out something that we all agreed on, which I did not agree on. And then we all shook hands and sang Kumbaya. Very disgusted with Jubilee on how they edited this, how they dealt with it while we were there, couldn't talk over each other. Really, we're going to have this kind of a debate. We all have to be